I was really hoping that on the retirement of Serena Williams, who you can give GOAT status to, even as we agreed yesterday, that there are too many GOATs out there and you're giving it away too freely and we better knock it off.
You're allowing this one?
Well, we can describe her as GOAT without dilution or reservation. I was hoping that we'd start here with Ron McGill asking questions about ridiculousness.
About actual goats.
About actual goats, correct. But because I wanted to talk about Serena Williams and because Howard Bryant knows tennis, I can say this more than anybody I know, Howard Bryant knows tennis. I want to talk to him about this so that he can put it in perspective for us. But Mike Ryan has been distracted by something that will also titillate Howard Bryant, because we were talking about Edwin Diaz's entrance for the Mets and how great the music is. And you're old enough to remember Lee Smith's Saunter and a bunch of other things that came out of the bullpen that were the coolest. But Mike Ryan has back there, he just happened upon something, the Vince Scully call of the Kirk Gibson home run.
So I started looking up Dennis Eckersley entrance team and came out to George Thorogood's Bat of the Bone. And I remember that I actually recently watched a Dennis Eckersley game because of the passing of Vince Scully. ESPN played that game in full. The Oakland A's LA Dodgers World Series game that Kirk Gibson heroically comes on pinch hit and does like the lawnmower yes thing. I watched most of that broadcast, and there was a really hysterical part of that broadcast, by the way, that I couldn't believe it didn't get seized on by Twitter, in which they're talking about Jose Canseco and steroid allegations from other people around baseball. And there is canned video of him pregame talking to the reporters, so upset that he even has to deal with it, dismissing it out of hand. How could you allege this stuff? Not true whatsoever. Vince Scully called that game so beautifully, as he did everything. And I really hope, if anything, with it becoming a viral thing and him trending on Twitter, people could dip back into some of his great calls, because he is, quite frankly, the greatest to ever do it.
How did you like Jose Canseco, the way that he swung in that series?
I could not believe it. And I remember Jose Canseco playing baseball, especially like older, even bigger Jose Canseco having monster seasons with the Rays and Blue Jays inexplicably, or so we thought. I have never in my life seen a more powerful swing. He struck out.
Sheffield?
He swung out of his
No, he was crazy. Anyways, Howard, let's get you in here. What is the coolest entrance? You've covered baseball in New York for a long time. Is Edwin Diaz entering the conversation with some of these other Enter Sandman, Mario Rivera, and some of the coolest things that come out of a bullpen?
Okay, so I am covering the Oakland A's in 1999. I'm the second year on the beat. I'm walking around the grounds with Billy Bean, the general manager, and he looks at me and he says, Alex Rodriguez is the greatest shortstop in the history of the game right now. And I said, he's in his third season. And he said, it doesn't matter. Therefore, along those lines, this is the greatest entrance of all time right now. Better than all of them.
Whoa!
Howard, stop it. Doing the postseason, Howard. No.
Listen, I'm into trumpets. Show me somebody else. There's only one thing I thought of, and that was Julio Cesar Chavez getting ready for a fight, listening to like the Mexican national anthem. I mean, you got to throw down when you're that good.
No.
When you come into trumpets, you are ready to throw down. Now, is he going to be good enough in the playoffs and the rest of it? The trumpets. But goodness, if you come into trumpets, show me somebody else.
Oh, I will.
Bold to do that.
Howard, you're off base. It's not even the best trumpet entrance. I pose to you, John Cena.
No, I'll tell you baseball. Maybe somebody else in baseball.
You're changing the rules. You go boxing, now it's just exclusive to baseball. John Cena is the best trumpet entrance, period.
He's been badgered into submission. I want to talk to him about what's going on too with HBO Max and the Marvel universe and everything that's happening there. But before we do any more of that, you saw Will Smith and everything that happened around what was supposed to be the graceful coronation of Serena Williams in film, and you now see in Vogue magazine she is announcing her retirement, U.S. Open. You explain it to somebody who, you are someone who really loves tennis. What is retiring right now?
I mean, you're watching. I mean, you can make if you want to do the whole historical goats, and there are a lot of goats out there. But I mean, to me, for the last 10 years, you're looking at the signature face of the sport, and at least, and especially in the women's game, but maybe in both. I mean, obviously, you've got the big three on the other side, but you really haven't seen that level of singular dominance. Everybody else has had rivals. Steffi Graf had rivals, even though she's got 22 majors. You know, Martina and Chrissy did their thing. They've got rivals, you know, the Burton Magic thing. But Serena just stomped everybody. I mean, really, when you're looking at that sort of singular dominance, there's somebody coming in. 2012 French Open, she goes in, she loses to Ginny Razzano in the first round, and people are like, oh my God, she's done. I think she absolutely demolishes the field for the next 8 years, and it's just, it's unprecedented in a lot of ways, especially in the Open era, where you're supposed to compete with a lot of other great players like everybody else has. And she just, you know, not only did she separate herself on the court, but this is one of the things that I've had real issues with, even though I know you guys are really big football guys. I hate parity. I really don't like parity. I'm not here for parity. I'm here for dominance. I'm not here for your 8-8 bullshit where, you know, everybody gets a chance to make the playoffs every 5 years. Give me the best. Serena walked out there and she booked ass on everybody, you know, and that to me is what it's all about. I want to see somebody come out there and face down everybody, every challenge, every time, and even when they lose, there's something powerful about the loss. And Serena, not having Serena on the stage is really going to diminish. I know we're talking about Naomi Osaka, and we're talking about, you know, Bianca Andreescu, and talking about Iga Swiatek and the rest of them. It's Serena Williams' game, and it's going to be a long time before somebody else really steps in. She's got 23 majors. Osaka's got 4, and people were trying to talk about Osaka as some sort of heir to the throne. I mean, she's the best, and that's why we're here to watch. That's what I want to watch.
You know sports excellence. You also know sports toughness. You know the belly of the beast. You know how grueling some of this stuff is. Place in a context for us the understanding of her longevity in that sport that eats its young and is really feels abusive to me in terms of stealing childhoods.
You can say is abusive. I mean, Serena Williams didn't even go to school. I mean, she was essentially homeschooled, and she went to classes on the tennis court. So you want to talk about taking everything. All I'm going to say to you about Serena Williams when it comes to that question, Dan, she went pro in 95. 27 years ago. I mean, she's been a professional athlete since 1995, and her sister Venus went pro the year before, 94. So she's been on the main stage for 27 years. And when you think about it, she's been a pro longer than her rivals right now have been alive. And that is something that you don't really get in a lot of sports. Maybe periodically you'll get a Tom Brady or somebody like that, but it's really, or Nolan Ryan, it's really, really hard to do. And to do it in that sport, and this is also, Serena is one of the first members of this new generation where you can continue to win in your 30s. Most players are out of there by their mid-20s. The game just burns them out. We just saw Ashley Barty retire. She's not even 30. And we're seeing it everywhere. But Serena, the toughness, it's not just the toughness, it's the desire to continue to compete. When in that sport, you don't have teammates, you don't have really coaching, you don't have timeouts. The mental brain power of trying to play that sport, where eventually most people are like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And for her to compete, in her retirement piece in the Vogue story, she talked about how she tried to turn all the negativity into a positive, where she could hear somebody in the crowd saying something, some nobody in the crowd, and that would fuel her to try to do better, or to dominate and crush her opponents or whatever. But that level of competitiveness, it's going to be really interesting to see how she transitions, because most players who have that, the Jeters, the Jordans, the Larry Birds, they don't transition very well, because nothing can replace that. nothing else out there can duplicate what she's about to leave. So interested in seeing what she does next.
Howard, Mike and I love tennis as well, and I understand what you're saying. I love dominance. Mike and I really do love tennis. We love the sport. We love the history of the sport, and I get what you're saying about having a dominant player in that sport, but there's always someone next. Like, we said the same thing when Martina left, and then Serena and Venus came along. We said the same thing about when Sampras left, and then Federer came, and then Federer kind of faded out, and it was Novak Djokovic. Jack left, Tiger replaced him. Like, there's always going to be someone next, right?
Yeah, there's always going to be someone next. However, I will make an argument here, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this. It is harder to be a great player than ever today. Harder than ever. And the reason is because of you. You know, the reason is because of us. The reason is your fault. The reason is because today you get the attention of a champion, you get the money of a champion, you get the visibility and the endorsements of a champion without having to be a champion. You can make a ton of money in sports today and not win anything.
Right.
You know, you can walk out of there. You know, Osaka's making $50 million a year. She's got 4 majors. Back then, those guys had to win to earn. You don't have to win to earn today. So I'm really looking forward. Obviously, yes, there are going to be tons of great players coming. There's always somebody next to you. You think you're never going to see this again. Somebody's coming because that's what happens. But the way that sports is set up today, you can check out of this real fast and make a boatload before you're competing. It's going to take that special person who has decided that they're going to compete against history instead of just playing for money or playing for attention. You're going to get all of that. You can get all of that without even winning a major, never mind 23.
But it can't be disproven what you guys are saying, that someone always comes next. And I can argue, not like this, longer career than Tom Brady out of Compton, revolutionizing the sport, overwhelming body, staying with her for 30 years? Like, no, man, we ain't going to see this again. This, like, you could go ahead and think that maybe you'll see it, but not like this. Not if you're going to give everyone $50 million a year and they don't have to win, people are going to gravitate toward the empire that she built.
That's 100%. And also, if you're going to add Venus in there as well, they are. You can throw Eli and Peyton in there. You can throw, you know, if you want to throw Randy Moffat and Billie Jean King in there, be my guest. You can throw the Boone family, whoever you want. Where Venus and Serena are the greatest pair of siblings in the history of North American sports. And nobody's done what they did. No one's going to do what they've done. You know, I mean, and so you're right in terms of you think you're going to see greatness, but you're not going to see that again, in my opinion.
Howard, you got me thinking, because I too actually like dominance, and you held up the NFL as an example. I tell you that you actually see dominance in the NFL. It's the same guy, much like Serena, doing it over the course of 20 years. But in men's tennis, we see dominance, and it's dispersed almost evenly throughout 3 guys. They're rivals. We know that when we get to a final, we are going to see 2 at the absolute height of this sport. With Serena, I have a hard time trying to even figure out who her greatest rival is. Is it Venus?
No,
it's Venus. If you look at the records, Djokovic probably had the best record against her, and it was only a 40% success rate. So who was her greatest rival?
Her greatest rival was her sister. It's Venus. You got to go back 20 years, but it's those 2. You go back to what they were doing in the early 2000s and the late 90s. They dominated the sport. They were both number 1 and number 2. The number of, you could make Venus has got 7 majors. If it weren't for Serena, they would be like Chrissy and Martina. They'd be like 16 apiece or whatever. But you're looking at the way that those 2 had to push each other. You're looking at the way that those 2, and those matches were not always great matches because there was so much emotion in between them. How do you play your sister in a major in front of 24,000 people? And so there's no doubt, if you go back to the more recent times, the last decade, for me, it's probably Azarenka, those back-to-back U.S. Open finals, 2013, 2014, 2012, 2013. I remember those 2. But really, she did not have a singular rival. What she did have, however, what was really sort of interesting was everybody trying to slay the beast. So you had these, I don't want to say pretenders, but you had all of these players be good players and have good tournaments. And then they would have the match of their lives against Serena. Kerber, match of her life against Serena. Muguruza, match of her life against Serena. Sam Stosur, match of her life against Serena. So Serena was the standard, and everybody was trying to live up to that. And it's gonna, like, once again, and they were so ubiquitous, and Serena was so ubiquitous that there were so many times where American media and the USTA, they would just sort of forget them. Like, they treat them like they're not even American. We're like, oh, when's the next American champion going to come? Well, you've had one for the last damn near 30 years.
Howard, what does she mean culturally?
Well, and then there's that. Then there's the other piece of it, which is, of course, the cultural piece, during the Me Too era, during the era of equal pay, what Serena has meant, obviously, to Black women in the sport, and women of color in the sport, fans in particular, who felt, you want to talk about a beehive. Okay, Beyonce's got her group, but my goodness, criticize Serena on Twitter and Lord, pray for what happens to you next. I mean, there really is she's a symbol of a lot of people who didn't feel hurt, a lot of people who felt like they were being marginalized, and Serena's victories were their victories. And so many cases, especially at the US Open against Osaka, when they felt like she was being completely wronged. There was a lot of theater there that was based on a lot of emotions that didn't have a lot to do with tennis. How
poorly were they treated coming up?
Oh, they're treated terribly. I mean, you don't want them there. I remember 2012 Wimbledon. It's my first Wimbledon. I walk out, and there's Richard Williams sitting there. He used to smoke these little cigarettes like Moors. Remember Moors cigarettes? He used to smoke these really tiny little cigarettes. And when
that is not probably what they were used to at Wimbledon.
Exactly. There's little Richard Williams sitting over there smoking. And when Richard ever saw somebody Black, right, he had to bring you over. Like, you had to come sit at Grandpa's knee, and he was going to tell you what it was. And he hadn't seen me before because I'd never been to Wimbledon before. He pulls me over, and we sit and we talk for like 45 minutes. And one of the first things he says is, you got to remember, they don't want us here. They've never wanted us here. And I told my girls, there's only one way for them to respect you, and that's win. If you win, they have to listen to you, and they can't get rid of you. And when you walk around the grounds at Wimbledon, you go through the stairwells, you go through the hallways, there's nothing but pictures of Venus and Serena because they won so many. She's got 5, Serena's got 8 of them. And so when you're looking at this from a motivational standpoint, from a historical standpoint, and just an emotional standpoint, they knew they were in hostile territory from day one, and they knew that the only way that they were going to navigate this hostile territory was to beat everybody's ass. And that's pretty much what they did.
Howard, I'm not sure how much of the Vogue article you've actually had the chance to read, but I did find interesting that she really doesn't seem like she wants to retire. She thinks that she could be Tom Brady, which she actually does mention Tom Brady in the piece. She says, maybe I'd be more of a Tom Brady if I had that opportunity not being that she started a family and that she had a child and that it affected her performance, and her daughter wants a sister and wants to carry on. She could potentially be an even greater figure. And later on in the piece, she also talks about she's really struggled with it. She doesn't even want to use the word retire. Do you think that she's actually fully retiring from the game?
No, that was the other thing about this story. Like, when you read the headlines, it says Serena Williams suggests retirement. She's not completely gone yet, right? She's one of them. She don't know how to let it go. This is what she knows. And like, people are like, oh, I understand the reflex of not wanting to watch your heroes get crushed, to not watch her get demolished, because that's eventually what's going to happen, because that's what happens to all of them. You can't play forever. But she's not ready to say goodbye. She doesn't want to quit. They don't know how to quit. This is what they've done. And you've done something like this since you were 12 years old or 6 years old, since you were playing. I mean, why would you let it go that easily, especially when you're her? I've always asked the question, how long do you play? Like, what, especially in an individual sport, are you comfortable? Now, Venus can do it, but are you comfortable going out there and getting knocked out in the second and third round? Serena's not doing that. I mean, there's only 3 ways to retire. The game retires you because you can't play anymore. Your body retires you because your body won't let you do it anymore, or you go out on top. And very few people walk in door number 3.
I actually appreciate that she doesn't want to go out like Venus is. It's a little different because Venus wasn't as dominant because of Serena, but to see what happened to Venus last night, I can't really imagine that happening to Serena. It's also kind of interesting for being such great rivals in their history. They face each other like 31 times, and they've had maybe 3 good matches.
All terrible.
They're all terrible. They don't really seem to enjoy playing each other, and we don't have those memorable matches between the two of them.
They enjoy playing each other.
I mean, it seems like one always checks out when the other person is very clearly got the good form going. There's always conspiracy theories about why those matches aren't really that good.
How insulting is that to say that one of them was tanking matches, one of the greatest competitors of all time? Do you really think she's
just giving voice to long-standing? There should not be. It is a little curious, Howard, that they only have had.
It doesn't seem like you're lending your voice.
I'm lending my voice to the conspiracy theories. It's flatly weird that arguably the two greatest tennis players of the modern era, never really had good matches, despite playing each other plenty of times.
Name me a comparable experience where you're going up against a family member, and not only you're going up against a family member, but you guys are going to be partners in the doubles after the match.
But Howard, she's already gone through some of this. Like, she lost first round of Wimbledon. She lost early, I think. I'm sorry about that. She lost early in a French Open recently. Like, she's gone through some of what Venus is going through right now. Like, she's done that.
When you get whooped by Harmony 10, it's time to go.
Howard, I want to switch
Put
gears.
that on the poll. I mean,
I want to switch gears. I know you're obviously a big comic book guy. You're geared more towards Marvel, but there's some interesting things happening in the DC universe, and you and I are pretty aligned on how we feel about the mess that the DC universe has become. But it's even getting more messy now with Discovery entering the fray. They have already canceled one film in Batgirl, saving the company $90 million by just not releasing it. Because if they release it on HBO Max, that even though Warner Brothers owns it, they have to pay licensing fees, so they shelve it. So there's already one movie that Michael Keaton is playing Batman in that won't see the light of day. And all throughout these last few months, even prior to the merger, was the Flash movie that has been postponed and postponed while the star, Ezra Miller, has gone through it publicly. There are allegations that they are running a cult, that they have recently been arrested on felony burglary charges, all sorts of terrible stories surrounding them. So what do you make of Ezra Miller, and will we ever see Michael Keaton as Batman again?
He was better in Birdman than Batman. I'll take Birdman. I have been trying, like most people, to make sense of this. And whenever I think of the DC universe, the only thing I can think of is, I just want to see all the checks. I mean, has there ever been another franchise launch that has just blown so much? I mean, the money is staggering here. I mean, and no disrespect to the actors, obviously, the stories just haven't been very, very good. They're not good at all. I mean, I will say, I think the Dark Knight Rises, I thought, was a spectacular movie. Everything else has just not been really good. I mean, if you're canceling movies, how does Wonder Woman 84 still exist in the universe? I mean, and
thank you for saying that.
And I want to just give a big shout out to Dan, who seems to make no distinction between DC and Marvel in these intros. I love that about you. Personally.
That note, see you later, Howard. Good talking to you. Appreciate your passion about all of these things and your expertise. Appreciate it, sir. Bill Lawrence going to join us in studio next.
Yeah, boys.
Thanks, Howard.
Our friend Bill Lawrence is in studio. He's in Miami here for a couple of months. He's wearing it. He's wearing
He
a
sure
little bit
is,
of
yes.
Miami. About a month too long in Miami. You've
it
spent
gets
here?
on you. Yeah.
Yes. What has your experience been just tasting this city, this weird city?
Well, in a normal city, like one day in Vegas is 100 days in other cities, but it's maybe Miami to Vegas is like 2 to 1 only. So it's rough, man.
So you've done 2 months of Vegas.
Yeah, you never. It comes from all sides. You know, it could be midday. You'd be talking to someone that looks like a housewife or a mom, and she's like 2:00. Maybe we should go get about 9 drinks. It's got that vibe.
Do you have a lot of armed people in and around wherever it is that you're staying?
Where I live in over in South Beach in a condominium that you can tell. I think you can tell when the Russian oligarchs are there because suddenly there's armed security guards. Yeah.
You could tell when they flood in to the and what have you noticed? What about your living arrangement? What have you ever tried this much Miami before?
No, I have not, man. And all my roots and my Florida roots are in Central Florida. You know, some over in Orlando and Winter Park. My parents went to college at Rollins, and then the rest of my family lives over in DeLand, where Stetson is. You know. So Miami has only been a cup of coffee for me, and getting a firsthand view of it is like nowhere. I think you got to see it once. I don't know if you have to see it twice.
You're ready to leave, aren't you? You're ready to get the hell out of here, aren't
He's been
you?
ready for a month. Yes, it's the same as you. You were afraid of South Beach because you were going to leave addicted to cigarettes and shit. If that
And I'm
didn't
addicted.
happen,
Yeah, exactly.
You got you, yeah.
Bad things happen here.
Exactly.
I'm telling you.
I should tell people you could have chosen any project in the world after making Ted Lasso, and you came to Florida and did the Carl Hiaasen novel and are almost done, I would assume.
Yeah, we're almost for the last couple of weeks right now.
How do you feel about the project?
Oh, it's cool. You know, it's awesome experience. I love Carl. I loved actually shooting Florida for Florida. I wouldn't necessarily try it again, but what a cool experience. Just there's no other state that looks like this. You can't fake it anywhere. Combination of Everglades is a half an hour away. South Beach is here, going out to the Keys. It's been pretty insane, you know, as far as environmentally and the way it looks and stuff. But
have you ever had a budget like this to play with after that success? Apple Television. We were just talking before you came in here about how discerning Apple is with its choices and how they've set themselves up to be a different kind of streaming model that's going to do it differently than Netflix is doing it.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because everything in entertainment it lines up with what you guys are doing. It's a reaction, and Netflix. I'll end my career on Netflix yet again. That's all I do in this show is prevent myself from ever working on Netflix. They stopped kind of curating their brand a little bit, so it just seems there's good stuff on there, but it seems like, hey, are you interested in everything? And you know, Apple is really kind of curates it like, hey, this is our brand. These are the type of shows we do, and if you like one of them, you'll probably like most of them. I think that kind of lines up with the stuff that you guys are doing too. You know, it's very easy to throw 9,000 things at a wall, but when I see the ancillary stuff you guys are doing, it all seems on brand, and I think Apple's doing that too.
Have you enjoyed it? Because I would feel a great burden of pressure. You're a creator who's created for a long time confidently, and you're a bit of a prodigy. But I would feel having to make the next thing after Ted Lasso, that would feel like pressure to me.
No, but only because I've been around long enough for the inevitable ups and downs. You know what I mean? Which is TV by nature is cyclical. I was hot and then cold and then hot and then cold, and I'm hot and I'll be cold again very soon. Eventually, someone will say, "Hey, is Ted Lasso just Scrubs with different characters?" And is he doing the same?
But you have expectations now. Like people are expecting stuff from you.
Oh, but
right?
he's got the right attitude.
Yeah.
If you're making the shit you're making without pressure, God bless. You've arrived at a blissful place. Like you still work for a corporation, right? Or you still have there people to answer to. But God Almighty, this has to be the most creative liberation you've ever felt.
Yeah, without a doubt. Hey, look, it's one of the reasons I dig on this show is it feels like people doing what they want to do, and I have the luxury right now of getting to do what I want to do, and you know it'll either work or it won't. But I've always just said, we used to joke around that I wanted to call it Noble Failure Productions, because if you can show this stuff to your friends and family without being mortified, you know, you can't really ask for anything. You can't control anything else, you know, where people are going to care or not. But I think the show's good. I think, you You know, and I've been a fan of Carl's for so long, and I know he's a fan of this show too. That just getting a chance to do that was really cool for me. It's like, oh, you read these books growing up, and now you get to turn one into a TV show. That was pretty badass.
I want to treat TV the way we treat sports, where you've had a hit show, but do it again, Lawrence. Okay?
Yeah.
You gotta do it again. Yeah.
Do it again.
Show up.
Do you have any idea? Because I'd be interested in talking about the business with you. I find that you guys have such unique viewpoints as creators trying to make their way through the corporate labyrinth. Do you have any idea what you've done for Apple with Ted Lasso? Because that was the first one that got everyone's attention. Is it not?
I do. And by the way, you're always nice to say me. But I always have to take the time to go. Sudeikis crushed it, and you know, the other creators, Joe Kelly, Brendan Hunt. But yeah, we all read an article that said, and someone can research here, but they put an article out that said that Ted Lasso is the #1 show as far as causing new subscribers to get onto any of these sites. So it's kind of ended up being almost single-handedly responsible initially for the subscriers, a base of Apple, you know, just growing in a giant way.
What was your expectation at the start of that? It couldn't have been that.
No. I was just hoping, you know, like I do with every show, man, I just hope it doesn't make me look like an idiot, you know, and, you know, beyond that.
It's a very low bar.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised, man. Yeah, I always say that one of the best things about my career is that the really, really, really awful shows I made, except for one, don't get on TV. Because you still often you make, you know, the basements of these studios are littered with $5, $10, $15 million pilots that are so bad they can't put them on. I don't know if you guys, I don't know if this is the case, but you might have read that Warner Brothers made a huge feature out of Batgirl and just announced last week that they're not going to show it to anybody.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask you about where the industry is headed, what you see, because I thought Mike Schur had an illuminated perspective on it, and I imagine you would too, from your vantage point.
Well, no matter what his perspective is, mine's going to be different because, you know, enough with Mike Schur. I mean, let's be honest.
I like that.
Yeah, fair enough. You know what? I don't need to mention it.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't that illuminated. It was a take. It was a
I think
perspective.
you can do better.
I'm sure Mike's insight was amazing.
You can do better. You can tell us what's happening in the.
You know, if you ask me a tough question, I'll call Mike up and ask what the answer is, just so I know. I want to keep this going so bad, man.
Please do.
Well, they hate each other. There, I said it. Okay, I want the audience to know. This guy, Lawrence, has been a nemesis of Mike Schur for many, many years. Everyone needs to know it because you've been the wonder kid. But regardless, you don't worry, right? You've arrived at a place in your career that HBO Max shutting it down doesn't affect you, but it affects the industry, it affects people you care about, and it affects content because you can't take 70% of HBO Max and not gut the place.
Right. Look, there's one of the realities of entertainment is if you create content, you're always going to find a way. Okay. What's tough, really, all you're really talking about is what the compensation system ends up being, because you guys know they even if they keep merging and all of entertainment becomes 3 or 4 companies, they're still all going to need content. The only thing people are going to get hammered on, I would imagine, is how little they get paid for doing stuff that they used to get paid, a lot for. But content is king. So it doesn't bump me too much, this kind of ongoing treadmill of all these guys kind of sucking up the other companies and controlling what they put out there. I also think that no matter what they do, if you find something that breaks through, leverage shifts. And it's going to continue to be that way, whether it's a podcast, a book, a movie, TV shows. The second that people are seeking that out, there's a leverage shift, and you just got to know how to use it.
Stugotz, Bill has come in with one of his sons, and I would describe this young man as foul to his core as a sports fan because it's about transactions and numbers.
My kind of kid.
The players are just commodities and assets, and they're just fantasy things to be traded and swapped, and I find him just generally offensive, even though I just met him.
Well, look, I'll give him props. Will, the kid, the guy that's here is a baller. He and Tony had to guard each other a bunch, so I'll let Tony say say how that went because Will's
a sniper.
Yeah, he's good. It's
He had a
Really?
game where he hit like 5 or 6 threes from deep too.
But you're better, right?
I mean, I'm not gonna say that.
I will say this. I'll
obviously.
say this to embarrass my son. He was shooting lights out, and the nice guy that runs that game,
Chris.
Chris said, "Will, you got to keep that guy from driving." And this is in a pickup game, and Will said, "They don't pay me to play defense."
In a pickup game.
This guy gets it.
But he looks at sports all wrong. And you've been arguing about Kevin Durant all day.
Well, look, this guy, my youngest son looks at sports wrong because my youngest son, who Dan, you guys have seen on Zoom, he follows. It's fantasy, so it's whoever's on his fantasy. There's no real teams. This guy is the opposite side of the coin a little bit. Although, and you've talked about it here, he does one thing I don't like. He does us a lot, like we, the Clipper. We have a great chance to do it this. He's whatever team he likes, he's on the team.
What's wrong with that?
It drives me crazy, man. He's not on the team.
You didn't raise him right. That's a failure. That's a reflection on you every time that he does it. But what have you been arguing about Durant?
We've been
with
arguing
him?
about Durant because I really liked it. It came out. I'm sure you guys saw. It came out that Durant said, it's either me or Nash, and the GM is Marks. Yeah.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
Marks.
And the owner supported his management, and I'm like, oh, good. And my son actively thinks it's a monster mistake, and it's all about the players, and it should be whatever Durant wants.
He's right.
All right.
But it has been everything Durant wants. And
How's
now-
that going?
Yeah, it's not going very well. And that was leaked yesterday. Like, nobody knows the contents of that meeting. So when I read Shams saying it's either me or them, like Durant's putting that out there, they're not going to put that out there.
No, he wants it out there. Yeah.
He wants it out there. It's a good move to force exactly what happened, which is Josai coming out, having to publicly back his head coach and GM, and now he can continue to force his way because he obviously wasn't happy with the time this was taking. It was an alpha move from Durant. It was also curious ESPN's lack of reporting on it because it wasn't broken by their reporter. All of it was really interesting. And the fact that there isn't a massive Nets fan base is the only reason why we're just now talking about it, because what Kevin Durant is doing is nuking that franchise.
Yeah.
It is all him. He is in the bed that he
Well, it
made.
started
right?
with Kyrie, Mike.
He's in the bed that he made.
He signed a year ago today. He
doesn't-
signed 4 years, $200 million a year ago today.
Doesn't like the direction of the franchise. He was in on this. You made the franchise.
He is the direction of the franchise.
No, but I think what happened is he thought playing with Kyrie was a good idea and then realized along the way, hey, not such a good idea. He doesn't want these things the way I want these things.
Has he?
He
I think he still
Kevin
wants.
Durant's been there and been healthy for the playoffs. Kyrie's missed them.
It's everybody else's fault, but he doesn't understand that it all went the direction that he wanted. Kyrie's got a Kyrie. That's part of the evaluation.
But you're the Nets and you have Kevin Durant. Like
Wait, you're saying, but you're the
you
Nets.
get rid of the coach, you get rid of the GM. You've never had a player like Kevin Durant.
You're saying, but you're the Nets. Don't you think with the shift to Brooklyn and the money they had, they were set up to succeed like no other franchise in a long time, and they
100%,
just pooped the bed, man.
Yeah.
It was
You're a
just-
Sixers fan, so I guess you like to see it, right?
Yeah, I love to see it. I've been hassled before. I'm a lifelong Sixers fan.
You're more of a tampering guy.
What's that? Yeah. Oh, thank you. I don't believe that. That never happened.
But if Durant wanted to go to the Sixers and said, get rid of Doc Rivers, would you be okay getting rid of Doc Rivers?
Yeah, he's.
You're
Do
done
I
with
think
him?
Doc, do I
You're
think Doc
done with
Rivers
him?
is a good X's and O's coach, or do I think Doc is a good player coach? I don't know.
What if Durant says, get rid of Morey? I mean,
Well, let's do it this way, Mike. You hate the Sixers. He represents their fan base. You
Yes.
think the Sixers
I
are
know this about
raging frauds. They don't have the history that the Miami Heat
They
do.
don't have. They barely have any.
He's got to go back to Mo Cheeks and
Well, I'm
Daryl
old.
Dawkins.
I'm old enough that I can go Mo Cheeks, Andrew Toney, Bobby Jones,
Yeah.
Caldwell Jones, Daryl Dawkins. And
It's
then
amazing that
eventually-
you.
Chocolate Thunder.
I'm happy that you can remember a Philadelphia 76ers championship.
It was that long ago.
It did not happen.
I don't know if
during my
LeBron was
lifetime.
playing back then, but we didn't buy him for championships. We just did it.
you bought Moses Malone.
I don't know. I'm blocking that out. Wait, was he the one that said 4, 4, and 4?
Yes, that is the one. Moses. That's the last time Philadelphia won is 40 years ago.
Yeah, I was born in 1985. Never in my life have they've made it to one final. in my
Iverson
lifetime.
single-handedly took him to the final against the Lakers. They won the first game. He stepped over what's his face,
Ty
the head
Lue.
coach.
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
and
that's
then it was
kind of like a
disaster.
title, right?
It
That
counts.
was your title moment, isn't
By the way,
it?
I was at that game, and I could have. I could not have told people more that the Sixers going to win in 6 or 7.
You were walking out of game one. Like, feeling so good, right?
Yes, he's irrationally kind.
Strutting
He'd be
out of game
obnoxious
one.
as a winning sports fan. Oh my God.
Every basketball season, I dread it. Is this the year they're finally going to make it past the second round? And thankfully, the Sixers always Sixer.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, one of these
You
years
gotta
you'll be right.
believe. What's the other option?
Come hell or high water or private sponsorship deals with gambling entities that owners have divested themselves from the NBA for.
It's all so bad.
What I love so much is they were the ones that lodged a complaint on the Kyle Lowry stuff last year.
I know.
And now they've done this.
Bill,
How
that was your comeback. Your comeback is one of these two teams has actually paid a penalty for tampering.
I know, but
multiple times.
Oh, yours is coming.
It's coming. A and B. Look,
Get that second round pick ready.
if you're a true Philadelphia fan, because I lived outside of Philly when I was a kid, and my dad took. I'm a fan of the whatever team I saw first live, and it was the Phillies, Sixers, Flyers, but the first football team I saw was the Dolphins. But the Phillies, at least for a long time, were doing it right. And I don't know if because one of the things my sons grew up with was the Phillies were one of those teams that actually kept their core of Rollins and Utley and Ruiz and the Flying Hawaiian, and kept that core together and actually won a couple times. I mean, they had to go get Halladay, but they did it right. And I wouldn't necessarily go to the mat saying the Sixers are doing it right.
James Harden, though, you like better in the player empowerment stuff. Durant's nuking one franchise while Harden is doing wink discount deals so that they can tamper with PJ Tucker.
Oh, it's so hard to love Harden, man.
Isn't it? That one's got to be a mind bleep for people.
Did you see Harden and Kevin Durant in London celebrating with Travis Scott? Like, they're best buds again. This is such a weird thing. Like, Kevin Durant does not want to pay any of the ramifications for his own decisions.
Well, he doesn't
want
have to, though. But
he doesn't want to suffer consequences.
No, but he doesn't have to. To me, it's not that he doesn't want to suffer consequences. May we all arrive in a place at work where we're so valuable that there are no consequences. Like now, because he doesn't care about the tatters, he doesn't have to care about the image anymore. It's not about I'm going to sell sneakers like LeBron. I'm going to be second place throughout all of this, and I've sort of destroyed whatever it is that doing the right way is. And so now everyone still wants him, and he has still all the power after nuking them. He's nuked them.
I could never. It is a level of shamelessness, and I'm actually jealous of how little Kevin Durant cares, because looking at this wreckage in your rearview mirror of what you've done to this Nets franchise, if I were in Durant's shoes, I would just keep my head down. I'd push through. I'd try to find a way. I'll make it work with Simmons. Like, I made my bed. I picked this GM. I picked this coach. I picked these teammates. Yeah. I could never make a public mess of it. No consequences for Kevin Durant. In fact, his Q rating's probably gone up throughout all of this.
There are consequences. He just doesn't care about those consequences. Like, he's never going to be looked back at as one of the all-time greats. He won't.
That's not true.
That's not true.
No.
That's not true.
Dan, that's the truth. No one's going to sit here 15 years from now talking about top 5 NBA players of all time and include Kevin Durant in that conversation.
Okay, so
sorry, it's not happening.
You don't think they'll talk about him like they do Marino as a guy that was one of the best scorers of all time as opposed to one of the best pure passers of all time?
I do think if you played out his career 100 times, this might be the worst version of it. Seriously, because he is that good, and never won a title in Oklahoma City, jumped on a bandwagon Golden State, and has destroyed this. Like, this is about as poorly as it could have gone, given how absolutely incredible at basketball he is.
I don't think anybody would call his career a disappointment, though. You would?
I think it is.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it definitely
because
is a
he's so talented, Dan.
You guys believe that a guy who's never existed before at that height, who is going to be remembered, no matter what you say now, as one of the best scorers anybody has ever seen, you believe that people going forward don't think he's every bit as great as he is? Like that if he won, how many championships do you have to have him winning before you accept
he's
that
-2 right now, so he's got about 8 to go before he catches Jordan.
I don't. And the narrative on his time in Golden State
You think
just
his
flipped.
career is a disappointment? Kevin Durant.
Yes, because he's so talented. That's why.
He won 2 titles. And with one Steph Curry Finals MVP run recently, I think the narrative on his time in Golden State has flipped a little bit. In my opinion, Kevin Durant is the second best player to come into the league since the time of Jordan. I think he's better than Shaq. I think he's better than Kobe. I think he's better than all of those guys. He just so happens to play in LeBron James's era, and he's made poor decision after poor decision that has hurt his own legacy. And the Brooklyn thing is chief among them.
I don't know how you are one of the best historic ever and a disappointment. You've placed the expectations for me in a
Because
place
you've made
that's-
lousy decisions.
I got a good bet. My bet would be, because the thing that's been freaking me out about sports is how quickly the narrative shifts. And I bet you Durant has a turnaround on his story within a calendar year.
But to Mike's point, he's saying stay with the Nets. That's the best possible chance
Depend-
for a
I'm-
turnaround.
yeah, but
Depending on which team he goes to, I might agree with you.
Yes, I'm speaking in generalities. I've noticed when people bottom out in this level
saw-
of
Knicks,
sports.
and perhaps you'll be right.
I made an argument for third greatest player of all time just now.
Yeah, no.
When most people are taking Curry over him.
It's aggressive. It's
Oh, yeah. Culture.
I love these stupid arguments where Mike James gets dragged, okay, because he says Steph Curry not in top 5 for me, too one-dimensional. And not top 5 right now. He's not saying ever. He's saying there are 5 players better than him. And I know that everyone dragged Mike James as who the bleep is Mike James. But I thought to myself, yeah, I mean, he did change the entire sport, but those other 5 guys, they're really great too. And if the line here on whether you're historically great or not is Stugotz's top 5, will I place you in my top 5?
15 years from now.
Okay.
That's a huge metric. Yeah.
It's a hard one. You will be able to forever say Kevin Durant's not in my top 5, but I don't think I'll be able to say it.
No, you'll be able to say it, Dan. It'll be you and I on rocking chairs out on a patio doing, we're not doing a show live, but we're still doing a show because we're always doing show. We'll talk top 5 NBA players. You'll realize then Kevin Durant is not one of them.
All right, let's close out the segment here with top 5
Little lemonade.
ways to measure things. Top 5, number 5,
walker,
Mike
Eddie.
Ryan.
This is the top 5 ways to rank things. Number 5 is GOAT status.
Excellent.
Is something the GOAT or not? That is number 5. Number 4 on this list, the totem pole.
Mm-hmm. The bottom is the best, right?
We don't know.
we
Which
actually
one is
did.
it?
Well,
the bottom is the top.
I think the bottom is the top.
it was co-opted, and now that top of the totem pole is the most important. But if you actually do the research, bottom of the totem pole is the most crucial to the actual totem pole.
Did you know that, Bill Lawrence? Did you
I
want to be on top of the totem pole or at the bottom of the
I want to be
pole?
on the top of the totem pole.
You want to be on the bottom.
You want to be on the bottom.
That's not true, but go ahead.
Number
Everybody wants to be
3.
in the middle. this
Look
guy
it up.
gets it.
Number 3, medal stand.
Excellent.
Bronze, silver, and gold.
Mhm.
Number 2, Mount Rushmore.
Excellent.
And number 1, top 5 list.
Oh, not rings.
I
I don't know if Stugotz is mad or what the groans are about, but he's muttering about Adam Shine.
Yeah.
He's again
Shine on sports. I mean,
why are you muttering? What is happening with Adam Shine? What, has he disgusted you?
I'm not mad at Adam Shine. I am mad at you and Mike because I had a great relationship with Aaron Rodgers. This show had a great relationship with Aaron Rodgers, and now I said earlier that he used to do 2 shows. It was our show. And he used to do Pat McAfee. He still does Pat McAfee. But now he has left our show. He did Part of My Take yesterday. And so I felt like he was replacing us with Part of My Take.
Well,
But
they went to go see him. They went to Green Bay to
whatever. He did the show, and now I feel like he's rubbing it in. Dan, you know I track these things. He has never done Adam Shine's show in his life. And today, boom, Aaron Rodgers, Shine on Sports. I mean, we are doomed. So I'm mad at the two of you because you refuse to say anything nice about the guy. He's the greatest quarterback who's ever lived. I mean, someone say something nice.
I have said something nice. I said he was better than Saudi Arabia.
He's going to do ayahuasca together.
I was about to say, on the way here, my son said talk because Aaron Rodgers is his favorite player. He said talk about ayahuasca. I didn't know what he was talking about.
Well, Tony thought
The
you
new slot
smoked
receiver.
ayahuasca.
Yeah.
You do not smoke. Tony is railing against the drug system. He doesn't understand how it is that Aaron Rodgers is allowed to smoke some plant, but I don't think that's how it works with ayahuasca.
Dan, Josh Gordon must be furious right now. He must be looking around saying, okay, so this guy can go do whatever that is, and I can't, do a little thing here and there?
Well, that is a little strange, the differences between marijuana and ayahuasca. But you don't have any experience with this? Because I'm going to admit something I've not admitted before. In the name of brain exploration and stretching the mind, I've done clinically tested ketamine recently.
Look at that.
little
Research.
K-hole.
For research reasons.
Wow, look
Yeah,
at
you
you.
did the science,
Oh, a
Dan.
little special K for breakfast,
special.
huh?
How about that?
Okay.
Where's some?
That explains a lot.
It's a lot. Yes, it's a horse tranquilizer, and it was
Jesus.
it was a out of body experience that brought me close to the brink of death blissfully. But that is what people are searching for with ayahuasca.
How do they
Can I get
administer
some?
that?
I mean,
You just
got
run
enough?
around and they hit you with a dart, or you just
No,
use something you take?
it's an IV,
Yeah.
and they're with a scientist in a very quiet room.
How official is this scientist?
Yeah,
Well, it's
good
Miami
question.
official.
Yeah, he's a guy.
Out of your minds? You trusted it?
Was the scientist wearing a white coat?
I did six treatments.
Was the scientist wearing a white coat?
It's a great point because if you're a real
was Bill Nye.
scientist, you have to wear a white coat. You have to. Professor Gilligan's Island. I mean, everyone knows.
24/7.
It depends on when you ask me, because the scientist at one point was just floating above my head in circles.
I'm on Team
wonderful-
Dan. I'm doing a show. There's a show back in LA about therapists, and one of the things we were researching, MDMA is now one of the main research techniques in therapy for trauma, addiction, and any of that stuff. And they're starting to use it. Johns Hopkins, Cedars-Sinai, and so it literally is, essentially ecstasy therapy.
I'm in.
I would like to talk to Aaron Rodgers about what he's doing, like what he's searching for, what has caused him to head down this path where he believes that his brain chemistry needs to be altered.
Well, he's actually talking about that with other shows.
Yeah, I was saying.
Shine on sports.
He's gone into
That's
great
right.
detail.
Yeah.
Find out.
Where he actually revealed that nugget was him talking about it in great detail with someone not Dan Le Batard.
Stugotz has sent the email.
I have no response. I am telling you, Tom Fanning has never gone 11 minutes without responding to me. It is now, I think, 2 hours
Sad.
since I sent that email.
Sad and pathetic.
Yeah.
Find a new Aaron Rodgers.
We will.
right.
We will.
Let's be Josh Allen, guys. He's also part of my take. We got to find a new guy.
I
How about
believe
Bronco Nation? Let's ride.
We will increase our potential to have major quarterbacks want to be on the show if we win a Grammy for Best Musical. The nominations come out this week.
No, we this month, at the end of this month, closes the entry process, and this week we are formally submitting the Big Game Musical as a. I gotta really slow down how I say that, otherwise I run into the Izzy Goody Eras joke at the end. The Big Game Musical. We're formally submitting it for Best Musical Theater Album. And we hope with this platform we can avoid some very hefty promotional fees that come with actual formal Grammy campaigns. I did not know what a booming business this was, but every time you see a billboard for Ted Lasso for your consideration best comedy series, that costs at least like several $1,000s.
Yeah.
There is a
Like
budget.
$800 or $900.
Yeah, you guys set aside a budget.
It's not us. These companies spend bazillions of dollars marketing, promoting, publicity awards. Yes.
So we're trying to do that, but by spending about $7K in Ethereum.
Sure.
That's all we have.
Is it a meritocracy in the award system, or can you buy these awards?
Oh, no.
Oh, what? It depends on which one you're talking. Any ones I've won, total meritocracy.
Right. But the ones that other ones have won,
Yeah, those could be
they bought
bought.
them.
They could be bought.
But I've familiarized myself with all the rules, and I know that if I bump into an Academy member, I ask them, "Are you a Recording Academy member?"
Yeah.
And I just tell them, "I'm here to raise awareness. I'm not there to formally ask
Sure.
anybody for their votes. But if you are around any of your other Recording Academy friends, can you continue to raise awareness?" I've even started a grassroots cameo campaign with some football voices, and I got rejected on my first request. And this was actually a really funny story because it's the first time I've submitted for a cameo and got a phone call from the camp of the person that was denying my request. I requested Dave Wanstedt to do a 90-second promo on why the big game should be considered by the Recording Academy for Best Musical Theater Album.
Maybe that would have been funny.
And I had, because of like the weird Mario Cristobal plugged-in coaches search contacts that I've made, I got a phone call from someone that was actually with a very confused Dave Wanstedt, who I heard in the background in his very distinguishable accent asking what the heck. He didn't want to embarrass himself, and he thought that we were making a joke of him. And I tried to explain in excruciating detail what I was going for. He still passed at the opportunity. I was then offered a former USC head football coach that wasn't Pete Carroll, and I wasn't interested.
Ed Orgeron?
No, I would totally take Ed Orgeron.
Oh, that would be huge.
Yeah, I think I can.
That's probably a good move
Had
for
to be
Ed
Elton.
as his first big move back.
I think I can get Ed Orgeron.
Ed's been spending a lot of time around the UM football program.
Yes,
I saw.
sir.
A lot
Yes,
of
sir.
practice. I think his son is involved.
Isn't Lane Kiffin coming on the show this week? Can we get him to do it?
His cameo price is very hefty.
Well, can't we
is,
just
it's
get him to
steep.
do it on the show, though? Like, and send it out as an advertisement? Like, just have him do a commercial or whatever it is that you need, a video, to submit to the Academy and see if they're impressed by Lane Kiffin. I do need to go back for a second, though, and point out to you that while he might have been bewildered by the phone call and the request, Dave Wanstead must have known somewhere in there in rejecting you, oh, I'm being made the joke here. I am that you can say however it is that you want, that
the
this is
LeBatard
you
Show-
want my sincere endorsement.
The LeBatard Show did raise some red flags, considering we once actually made a brick and mortar restaurant that was called Wani McStashes.
We did do that.
we did do that.
We did it.
Can
Lane
you get me the
Kiffin,
menu? Can you just find me the menu to Wani McStashes so
It's
that you would
great. I know
I know
understand
that we
why?
had puntatizers.
Lane Kiffin is $300 on Cameo.
Hefty fee.
Jesus.
Hefty fee, and I'd rather have that go towards a billboard in like Des Moines, Iowa, because I can't actually afford the Hollywood Strip.
Whittingham, you know that Bill Lawrence, I did not know this about Bill Lawrence until recently, because you were getting some criticism here as being a nationally negative local voice on Tua Tagovailoa. And somebody writes in, Fancy Lad is the reason I support Tua. He receives such a flood of unfair criticism from him that I can't help but root for him. Whittingham pretends to know what Tua is when there's no way anyone can honestly judge whether or not he's any good, and Chris will not be allowed on the Tua train once it's out of the station.
Oh my
Excellent.
God!
Yes.
It's still there.
Kicked off the Tua
He
train.
is banned. Banned from the Tua train.
that.
Bill Lawrence,
I believe.
listen to this.
Nice.
Why do you believe? You be careful here.
I'm gonna be careful. All right.
Why do you believe?
Lifelong Dolphins fan, as you know. My grandmother took me to see Miami Dolphins. I saw the Dolphins when Greasy was the quarterback. I was a little kid, and but if I'm answering why he is not, there's no possible way yet that you could say, aside from just saying my opinion is better than yours, that he is going to fail. He hasn't been given the opportunity to succeed yet. And if you're an actual fan, until he's given. This year is going to be a make or break year. He's either going to show us he can be an NFL quarterback or he'll be an afterthought. And if I'm a true fan, how can I go with, I already know it's not going to work? I don't want to live in the negativity. This is a Ted Lasso world. Live in the positive.
But you specifically requested, my opinion is better than yours, and I present to you one fancy lad. Because he does not want his expectations to be in a place that he's going to again get hurt.
I would argue I would shift this argument to a philosophical one about how you want to live your life. Okay? And so to me, I'm making the choice to live my life hoping for the best. And I think anybody that right now, without the actual facts and evidence that's going to go, it's not going to work with Tua, is just somebody that wants to expect the worst and then maybe not be as miserable when it doesn't go well. And who enjoys that? Come on.
You have made a compelling argument when you invoke Ted Lasso. It's like, oh no, I'm the antithesis of Ted Lasso. I don't like how this feels. However,
but that's not real life. Ted Lasso's a bullshit story.
Yeah.
Like that's not a thing that happened. That's something conjured by these creative mystics.
Spoiler alert.
But it's not it's not about the story itself, whether or not it's real or not. It's about how you approach life. Ted Lasso provides all sorts of life lessons that we try and embody in our daily lives, and I failed here. However, I do have a role here on the show to provide at least somewhat sober analysis of the situation, and I think that too is bad.
Get over yourself.
The analysis can't be, I hope.
Well, if we're doing analysis, but I mean, Bill, that's what your analysis is. Like,
look,
do you have a lot of evidence?
No.
You watched Tua and gone, there's something there. Like, Justin Herbert's not in a great situation in law. He's got better
but
skills.
Justin Herbert passes the smell test. The guy's a monster.
I love you. I love you.
Test.
But I think
smell test has been passed, and Whitty's been thrown off a Tua train.
But I think for Bill, it's the same with the Sixers. Like, eventually, they're going to get it right.
It's going to work. Do I think Tua's going to be Dan Marino? No. Do I think he could be a great system quarterback if it's built around him? Yeah.
Oh,
we'll just have to see what happens.
So
he's
like a system quarterback. What an insult.
Do I think he can be a good system
Is that any
quarterback?
difference than he's got a good old man basketball game, which was said about me? No, and I took it as a compliment.
It is
was
a compliment.
So my point being, there's been plenty of great system quarterbacks that have won. They just don't go down remembered as some of the greatest of all time.
Bill, I don't want a system quarterback.
Okay.
We've had
So
system
you'd rather
we've had system quarterbacks for 25 years.
You don't want to win. You don't want to win with Dilfer. You don't want to win with Rich Cannon.
You'd rather
You'd
win
rather win with Herbert.
Yeah.
Done with Dilfers.
What a great question.
Okay,
Put
so
it on the
I don't
poll,
want it.
Roy, at
You
LeBatard
rather,
Show.
I mean, Chris,
That's
think
correct.
about
I
what
would
you're
rather
saying.
go the rest of my life going
no.
10-6 and going out in round one.
That's my question. Would you rather?
You'd rather
Trent
win with Trent Dilfer.
No,
You
I don't want to
would.
win with Trent
Yes, you
Dilfer.
would.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you're wrong.
I'd rather win with Dilfer or win with Cannon.
Roy, put it on the poll, please, at LeBatard Show. Would you rather lose with Herbert than win with Dilfer? It's a great question.
It really is.
Because the way you have to win with
There's only one
Dilfer,
answer,
all
though.
defense, 13-10 games, you're enduring all of these shit games.
But you win.
Yeah, that's right. I understand the question I'm asking.
I mean, Mark Sanchez, I got the 2 AFC championship games with him.
Yeah.
He was not the reason, but he's my favorite Czech quarterback of all time.
Sure.
I mean,
You pick Mark Sanchez over Richard Todd, yeah?
of course, Sanchez.
Over O'Brien or no?
Yes, 100%.
All right.
Although those guys didn't win either.
I know.
So, I mean, it doesn't.
Although Richard Todd just abused the Dolphins a bunch, which
He did.
bummed me out.
The Wani McStashes did not have the cultural impact that it felt like it had back in the day. It wasn't a lot on the internet. There was like a Pro Football Talk post reference to it, where they referenced one of the menu items.
We
so I had
didn't
to
get
go
a
back
lot of
into
coverage for actually converting a restaurant into Wani McStashes.
This happened before the internet.
We were serving chicken finger mustaches.
No, we were chicken mustaches.
I enjoyed pulling up a tweet from 2010 when we were promoting Wani McStashes, and there's supposed to be a photograph on it, but it's a link to a Plixie website that's now dead.
Plixie.
Twitter from 12 years ago.
We did have spineless buffalo wings, stashed potatoes.
Spineless buffalo wings that's just mean.
Yeah,
That's not even. There's no wittiness to it.
I wonder why Ron Stepp didn't do that cameo appearance.
By the way, there's a question mark out there, and a couple of these were witty, and then the middle one is just like. Then we had loser fries.
Yeah. It was,
And then we had like the bad coach salad.
how was that?
I'm like, no.
How was wonton soup? How do you feel about wonton soup?
Did you give him the vanilla offense with no nuts?
That was for dessert.
The dessert was vanilla offense with no nuts.
There's very
They
little.
did get progressively lazier.
There was very little
there
nuance.
was like a run LaShawn McCoy 200 times into the line of scrimmage pasta.
Nah. I mean, yeah, you could read into that. You could read into it.
I absolutely now want to serve a bad coach salad. It's somehow less subtle than spineless chicken wings. Vanilla offense with no nuts is the best we could do?
I like
or-
smashed
Great.
potatoes and I like wonton soup.
Stashed potatoes, that's pretty solid. That wouldn't get you fired. That wouldn't get you fired on day one.
How much of comedy writing has rejection in it?
Oh, dude, it's painful. You have to be my first job. I was so terrified as a staff writer, I was 21, to open my mouth, and the dude Rich Eustace that ran the show was just waiting for me to pitch a joke. And the second I pitched a joke, everybody got quiet. He's like, "Bill, we're trying to do a comedy up here." And there was like a pause that my heart stopped
God
beating,
damn.
and then everybody just started laughing at me. I'm like, "That's cruel. It's cruel."
But they know what the ecosystem
Yes,
is, right? So that was
yes.
welcoming you in. Hey, get used to that.
Yeah. On Spin City, we worked right above Law and Order, and so whenever anybody pitched just a crap ass horrible joke, I would mimic them falling through the ground into the Law and Order writers' room below us. So you'd be like, what are we doing down here? We're doing like a murder or some kind. Why don't you go down there and work with the sexual assault cases that they're doing on SVU? It's mean. It's cruel. You just have to absorb the punishment and keep moving.
I don't know what part of your story, right? You don't strike me just from meeting you energetically as someone who, when he was in his 20s, was Ted Lasso positive.
No,
something happened there, right? Like to be the writer who buys into the idea of hope when people talk about right place, right time, show during a pandemic. People are confused. Can I believe in something, please? I don't get off. Your personality seems to me like it's got barbed wire on it.
Yeah,
and-
you know what? Well, first, Ted Lasso. There's a group of us creating that, but I went optimistic way before that. I think it's a product of if you have really early success, and there's two ways to go, and one is to think that you deserved it, and walk around in that kind of narcissistic cloud where you think that everything coming your way should come your way. And the other way is to be so tickled by it, by the gift of lightning striking. You walk around, my dad said to me on the phone once, he's like, "You're one of those rare people that gets to enjoy what he does. And if I hear you complaining about your gig, I'm going to reach through the phone and smack you a couple times, And so I think I took that path because I to this day, the fact that I get to sit around and make jokes with talented men and women and do things like come here and get to talk to people that I'm fans of anyways. It's to be negative, man, is a bad path.
But it's harder, isn't it? It's easier to do Scrubs, right? It's easier to do something that has a lot of edge on it or has some snark or some cynicism. This is the harder thing, right? To give people syrup that's not a note off.
Yeah, but I think that I've always written with kind of relentless optimism and with an undercurrent of people giving a crap about each other, and even Scrubs, we had doctors, advisors, and the one rule we had on that show is we said we can be goofy and funny and silly, but these guys always have to be of service, and girls have to care about the people they're taking care of. And I love art and shows and movies like that where people care at the end of the day. And it might make me a closet softy, but I think the other side is, man, it's so easy to be pervasively cynical that it'll just drag you under, And so I made the choice pretty early on to kind of be relentlessly positive.
What do you regard as the best writer's room that you've worked in? Just the most fun when instantaneously you think back to, oh, we did a lot of laughing in there. Every day was a good time.
They're all different. I was on the first year of Friends, and it was hyper competitive, but it was raucously funny because it was a bunch of young men and women in a room really just kind of competing with each other to, who could have the funniest joke and pop culture references. And it felt like turning your job into a game, which you do bulletin board stuff all the time, apparently, And so, to know that you lost one day and go in and try to win the next day, that was great. Spin City. We the amazing thing for us, we were all super young, and to have Mike Fox saying things that you wrote was insane. And that was a sitcom in New York City where I was 26 and I was afraid to hire anybody older than me because they'd know I didn't know what I was doing. So everybody there was between the age of 21 and 26. And I had hair like my son, which is peroxide blonde.
You got hiring power, though, that young?
Yeah, for the writer's room, because I created that show with a mentor that protected me, a guy named Gary Goldberg, who we talked about, who passed away, and he let me hire the staff. And I was just too worried about hiring grown-ups that had done the job before because they would have seen past the mask, and been like, you don't know what you're doing. So that was a blast just because being young enough, we looked like this place. We had foosball tables and ping pong, and we probably wouldn't get around to work until midnight sometimes. It was awesome. But everyone's a different experience, man. There's been very few I haven't liked. To tell you
Which
the truth.
is the one that had the greatest degree of difficulty getting a joke from your thought to the play to success?
the script.
Yeah.
The cocky part of me will go, there's not many because I started creating my own shows at like 25, 26, so I was very lucky. The first couple gigs I had, I got fired from my first 3 jobs in a row. I did a sitcom that got canceled, and then I got fired off Friends, The Nanny, and Boy Meets World. Boom, boom, boom. And I think all of them were because it took me a second to learn the rule that it's not your job to do things that make you laugh. It's your job to do things that make the creator and the showrunner laugh.
I don't know if that's Mike Ryan's philosophy.
No, it's not.
Certainly not Billy's.
It doesn't seem to be kind of the culture here at all, Dan.
Yeah, those guys really like to make themselves laugh. I think that's the first audience, is it not? Witty, why is
to be fair, it's done well. Look at us. Look at this wonderful palatial studio.
We're all trying our best to make ourselves
Look
laugh
at our
every
YouTube
day.
stream that had audio issues early on.
We fixed it though.
We're at the top of the mountain here, babe.
It's pretty luxurious.
Witty, why were you saying that there's not such a big difference between Draymond Green's new media and old media? What is it? Because Draymond keeps hitting the note that he's at the front of a revolution that is here to attack, I guess, Stephen A. Smith. I guess he's doing old people and people who have a different perspective on entertainers and criticizing entertainers than Draymond Green has.
Draymond Green also has one note in respect to you can't talk, I can. That's his whole thing is you person, even in the NBA. So I guess there is a player, Austin Reeves, who doesn't like his nickname. I think
This is a big issue in LA.
Yeah,
by the way.
I think they might call him is it like Hillbilly Jordan or
Yeah,
something like
the
that?
one he really doesn't like, though, they call him AR-15.
Right.
You know
Well,
what I
yeah.
mean?
I mean that's
And-
not great.
And yeah, he wants to ditch it.
Yeah. So he came out and said, I would not like to be called that anymore. And Draymond Green said, you're not good enough to determine what your nickname is. You don't have enough stature in basketball. And honestly,
He's kind of right.
Stugotz can deliver that opinion. New media, we're not so different, you and I. Because all it is, it's Stugotz giving hot takes. It's all it is. It's the same thing. Eventually, you get a rundown from the producers, a bunch of stories a day. All right, what's my take? Yeah, Austin Reeves, shut up. How is it any different? They're meant to present this. We've played the game. We know the game. We know the culture of the locker room. We know what it's like to win championships, and we can provide a perspective that you can't. And it can't just be Austin Reeves, shut up.
It's a good take, though.
It can't.
I want to ask you guys the culture of, hey, guy, you're not good enough, shut up. I keep bringing this story up. Mike James made it to professional basketball. Bill Lawrence can tell you, as somebody who plays still creatively and gets complimented by having old man game, that getting to get paid for playing basketball, what you have to climb over to make a profession of that, you have to be really good at basketball.
Top 1%, right?
Mike James says of Steph Curry, he's not top 5. And the immediate reaction of everybody is, who the fuck is Mike James?
Yeah, he's not good enough. I mean, Mike James is not in the top 555 players of all time. Give me LeBron James.
But who do I have to make it so that you're not saying, who the bleep is blank with Steph Curry. Like, if who has to say that Steph Curry is one-dimensional for you to say, okay, I'll consider it because you're as good as Steph Curry. I'm not going to dismiss you as get out of here, Mike James.
Or you want to hear the Hollywood metaphor? Because we talk about this a lot. The Hollywood metaphor for this, and that's Mike has the answer. Go ahead, Mike. The Hollywood metaphor for this, by the way, that we talk about a lot. Do you guys remember when critics of art and material used to be reputable and people would know Paulina Kael? They'd know names, Ben Brantley, of people that did reviews. And so we in the business accepted criticism because you went, oh, these are people who went to school for it, studied for it, made their way up, and then they would write these amazing think pieces about why this play, movie, or TV show is good or it sucks. And now, literally within 5 minutes of your thing being available to be streamed on where it is, you can go on your phone and read 150 reviews from who knows who. You know what I mean? And so there's such a big negative backlash to it. The amount of comedy writers that write, you guys see in Ratatouille, the speech about the amount of comedy writers and TV writers that constantly quote that stupid speech about any piece of art is better than the piece of shit that someone writes about it. It feels like it's the same culture right now because it's not just. But if you're asking me, I would put you guys up there as reputable enough to comment on whether or not Steph Curry.
Oh, your judgment is terrible.
No, no. He's right about that. But to answer your question, Dan, I think, listen.
I mean, not all of you guys.
If it was Mike Bibby instead of Mike James, I think I'd be okay with him saying that about Steph Curry. But it's Mike James.
Well, Mike James. How's Mike James doing
Mike
over
James,
in Europe?
Mike James is a legendary European basketball player.
Well, then rank
he
the
won
European
an award
players.
called Most Spectacular Player.
How many years did he play in the NBA? How many years from Mike James in the NBA?
He played for the Nets in 2021. And he's played 1 year stops in Phoenix and New Orleans. But he's played for the best in Europe.
Did he ever start in the NBA? Like for a season?
He's the Steph Curry of Europe.
He's a two-time Greek League champion, an Italian League champion, an All-Euro first teamer.
I think I might be a one-time Greek League champion.
He was the best scorer in the Euro League. Like, he has credentials.
Give me that trophy. What is the name of the award? Most spectacular person in the world? What is the name of that? It sounds like a great award. It sounds like it's better than most valuable player.
You guys asked before. You can buy that award.
So
you can definitely buy most spectacular person
for your consideration. Greek League most spectacular player.
What is that? What is that?
You know when you see it.
Everybody knows you can purchase a Golden Globe and you can purchase most spectacular player.
I've been meaning to ask you, with all of your endeavors, are you a member of the Recording Academy?
What do we need from the Recording Academy?
I have a call today in 30 minutes to find out exactly what we need in terms of budget, and then I'll back channel directly with one of the company's co-founders to see if I can get a billboard put up in Iowa or something.
How much does this cost, Lawrence, to get nominated for these dumbass awards
Millions
that you
of dollars.
people
Millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. Millions and millions of dollars. None of this is going to work. By the way, I'm going to go back on what I said before about staying optimistic about the Dolphins. In this case, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. Set your dial to disappointment.
You know what's confusing is that there's two Mike Jameses that dominated European basketball.
Yeah, there's a Mike James that played for the Cavs.
Yeah, the Mike James that played for the Heat. Yeah, but they both were really good. Most spectacular player one that weighed in on Curry. He's the most recent one. He was the most spectacular player.
I need to know what goes into this award, though, and is it better than most valuable player? Because if you tell me I'm walking into a room, I can win 2 trophies, and you can give me most valuable player or most spectacular player, I think I want to be spectacular instead of valuable.
Sounds amazing.
The most spectacular player award is the award given to the player that is deemed to have the most impressive highlight plays of the season. Ooh. They tend to be slam dunk plays.
Wow.
As according to the Greek Basketball League most spectacular player wiki entry.
So it'd be John Morant for the NBA, right? He'd be MSP? Yeah. MSP.
Remarkably,
were you asking?
Remarkably, a list of names that I actually recognize. Mario Hezonja won the most recent edition.
Right.
Thanasis Antetokounmpo was a 2-time winner of the award.
Wow.
Mike James and Okara White, who I remember used to play for
but
Florida
I just
State.
realized that most spectacular player now is kind of not a great player.
No, it's not as cool. I thought it meant like most charming, charismatic player.
Yeah, I thought just an effervescent personality, somebody sweet.
Like when you leave dinner with a guy, you're like,
Real
that guy was
sweet art,
spectacular. What'd you think about that dinner you had with Mike James? He was a spectacular guy.
I believe the Miami Heat had like a 90% winning percentage when they started Okoro White in their starting lineup. Remember the Okoro minutes? God.
Roy, put it on the poll, please, at LeBatard Show. Have you ever left a dinner with another man and said, wow, that was a really spectacular man? Has anyone ever had that experience at dinner? I've liked someone, but I don't think I've ever left like just starry-eyed. Like, I can't believe I would describe that person the way I would describe opening a champagne bottle. Just
I can't
that
think
was
of a dinner.
spectacular.
I can't think of a dinner that I didn't say that about somebody. If I'm just being honest.
Because you're an amazing
But you weren't being a
Hollywood circles.
You said it about me.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Roy's a
did
spectacular guy.
He did say it about you. And again, I question all of Bill Lawrence's judgment.
How dare you?
That's a pretty spectacular dinner, Roy.
Ah, yes.
I think that nothing has signaled that the football season is about to be ushered in like what Stugotz just did. Radiant, buoyant. It feels like someone who has been in a dark room for a long time and now, not only in a dark room, but confined and with no movement of freedom. And now they are coming out into the light because the Hall of Fame game has arrived. Mark Davis is eating a chicken wing with both hands.
Wearing all white.
We were talking about Hawaii football yesterday. You could feel it off in the distance, and now making it truer than ever. We're not going to Dolphins camp this Friday, right, Whittingham?
No,
Because
next week.
football is in the air, but I don't think it's been more in the air than Stugotz saying, I've got a list of top 5 coaches who better win this season.
They have to win this season.
Yeah.
They better win this
to win
season.
Yeah.
Now, last season, Mike Zimmer was on this list, correct? Mike Zimmer would have been, and now he's gone. You better win this season. That means playoff appearance and what, Stugotz? First round win? Like, what do we need to be doing in the playoffs? When you say better win,
Right.
how are we defining that?
These are coaches that need to make the playoffs. At the very least, they need to make the playoffs this year or enough. That's it. They're fired. They're gone. They need to win right now.
I love these lists. If you remember, we had a very different list last year entering the season where we put coaches on notice. And some of them folded like a cheap lawn chair, and others went to the Super Bowl. That's right. Zach Taylor was put on notice.
This is different from the other list that Stugotz has. Stugotz, and I think this might be an overload. You guys might not be ready for this. Top 5 quarterbacks who need to do it right now.
Wow. Right now?
Right now.
This
Like
minute?
right now.
Who need to do
Yes.
it right now. They
Yes.
need to do it.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't even know what list I want first.
I'm dizzy. My eyebrows are
Interesting.
singed.
I have the coaches list. I have to find the quarterback list.
Oh,
it's
let's do the
somewhere around.
let's do
Yeah.
the coaches.
Yeah.
Top 5 quarterbacks who need to do it right now.
Let's
Top
ride.
5 coaches who better win this season. Those are two different things.
Yes.
Need to do it right now and better win this season. I don't know what the differences are, but they're different.
They're different. Like, doing it this season and doing it right now, you have to do it right now, meaning starting with week 1. You have to be good. You have to be good from week 1 for the entire season.
How is that different than better win this season?
You have to
You
win
can
this
lose-
season.
you can
You can
lose week
lose a
1.
game or two early, okay, but still make the playoffs, and you return for another season.
I
How
love
about that?
I love how your names are also the description.
Yeah.
So it's top 5 coaches who better win this season. They better.
They have to win this
They,
season.
okay,
And
but
thank you
that's
for
different.
clarifying because there was a
You
lot
keep
of
saying
confusion.
have to,
Yeah.
and it's and
They
the
have
better,
to win
but
this
that's
season.
They have
different than
to.
Better.
Listen, if they like their jobs, they probably want to win this season. Yeah.
But better win this season sounds more threatening than have to win this season.
does.
They better win this season suggests like gulags or something terrible is going to happen beyond firing. It's not just, hey, get out of here.
Okay, top 5 coaches that better win this season. I mean, if that's what you want, that's what I'll give you. They better win
You're
this
threatening
season.
them.
Yes.
Like that, when you say they better, that's more than have to.
Totally fair. I'm good with that.
Number 5.
Mike McCarthy. He's got to win right away.
Strong list. Strong list.
Might be low.
That's number
depending on what's
5.
the list.
Prescott needs to do it right now.
Sean Payton's out there waiting to take his job.
Yeah. He's got to win right now, Dan. He
That's
has to.
different than better win right
That's
now.
my list,
But which list is it?
It's you got to win this season.
That's not what the list is. Better win this season is a threat. Number 4.
Kevin Stefanski.
I mean,
McCarthy should have been higher.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, Stefanski's going to have to better do it with Jacoby Brissett, it might seem.
Yeah, well, it's my list.
Number 3.
Robert Saleh.
Really?
Yeah.
Does he?
Yep.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Very early in the life cycle. to
No,
start
as
demanding
Mike,
you better win now.
Lots
pointed
of
out
talent.
earlier, there is a ton of talent. You have Zach Wilson.
I did point out earlier that there was a ton of talent.
A ton of talent. You have Zach Wilson. You drafted him. You drafted him very high in the draft, a lot higher than other people would have drafted him. Plus, you've surrounded him now with a ton of talent. And you're in a pretty bad division. You have the Bills and no one else, really. We think the Dolphins might be good. We think the Patriots might be good. The Jets have an opportunity, and Salah needs to do it this season.
They're the worst team in the division.
That's not true. You don't know that. They're talented.
Put it on the poll, please, Roy. Do the Jets have a ton of
By the way, the Patriots plus 500 to win the division. The Jets plus 2,200 to win the division. for
Expectations. I mean, how about
Actually,
that?
not bad. They're a little.
They're the worst team in the division, and you don't have a quarterback. I don't know what you're doing.
Salah needs to win right now, Dan. That is a very talented team, okay? And maybe he's a system quarterback.
Needs to win right now.
He needs to. Dan, I'm telling you right now, Woody Johnson going to fire him.
Better win this season.
Well,
Needs
we'll
to
see.
win right now is the quarterback
My
category.
list, yeah.
But I know it's your list, but they're two different lists. They're both your lists, and you keep confusing the lists.
You don't think Salah's going to get fired if he doesn't make the playoffs? You think he's going to get the 3 years? You think Jet fans are that patient? You think Woody Johnson's that patient? Did he look patient when he was leading the Jet fans at training camp in the JETS Jet year? He has major expectations this year. Needs to win this season.
Number 2.
Matt Rule.
Oh, that one's good. Yeah.
I am so tired of Matt Rule, the quarterback whisperer of the Carolina Panthers. He's so good that he has 3 quarterbacks. How about you make one of them good? He hasn't made any of them good. Sam Darnold's not good. He drafted Matt Corral. Now he has Baker Mayfield, who I'm rooting for, by the way. I want Baker to have a big year. But Matt Rule came in. He could have selected any job. He's the hot college coach. It's been 2 seasons. He's done nothing except draft quarterbacks and ruin quarterbacks. Do me a favor. Win now. How about that?
Stu, he's actually not drafted quarterbacks, and that's been half their problem.
Free
They
agents.
keep getting old guys and just bringing them in like, oh, we'll just fix him, and then just never draft anybody.
Because he's not a whisperer. That's the deal. You better start whispering now.
Was he ever suggested to be a quarterback whisperer?
Yeah,
Matt
he was.
Rule?
Yes, he was.
At Baylor and
At Temple?
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Who's the quarterback there?
Look it up.
Okay, there it is. Boom. What are you going to do with that, Tony? How about you just eat some?
I gotta
Look it up.
Yeah,
You got to look
I
it up.
believe
Look it up.
P.J. Walker was a quarterback at Temple.
Just Google Matt Rule quarterback whisperer.
I don't think very much is going to come up,
you'll find
except one internet search
there.
that reveals that you have all the words, and it says Matt Rule is not a quarterback whisperer. Is the only thing you will find on the whole of the internet.
Well, we'll see.
Is he got a 6-year deal, right, Matt Rule? And this is his 2nd year, and Stugotz has announced it. He's number 2 on coaches who better win this season. Behind only.
Wait, did you see what Matt Rule did at practice?
This is Matt Rule's 3rd season, correct?
Yeah,
Right? Yes.
but he's taking control over a team. Hollywood Higgins and Baker Mayfield, a lot of people may remember their tandem over in Cleveland. They're now in Carolina. Baker threw a deep touchdown pass to Hollywood Higgins, and they rolled out the red carpet and finger photo snapping celebration that they did in Cleveland so often. Matt Rule was having none of it. Everybody did laps. You know why? Because he better win this year.
Exactly.
First Google search comes out to a link from September 7th of 2021 when I put in Matt Rule quarterback whisper. It said, Panthers can be a sleeping giant if Matt Rule saves Sam Darnold.
See? There you go.
Somebody wrote a sentence on the internet. There you go. You looked it up.
A year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1.
Works for me. Brandon Staley. No. What do you mean? He has.
I love this.
Thank you. He has the most talented quarterback perhaps in the game. Okay. And first 2 seasons has not made the playoffs. Now, the quarterback only played last season, but he still hasn't made the playoffs with a talented quarterback and a very good team. He's Mr. Go for it on 4th down. Okay, he does it way too much, way too often. You know what, Dan? There's a time and a place for it. There's also a time and a place for a good punt, okay? And Brandon Staley hasn't learned that yet. He has the talent. He has the quarterback. He has to win this season.
Single-handedly cost them the playoffs last year by not playing for the tie.
Go ahead. Cost him the playoffs again and see what happens. I mean, he's gone.
What are you shaking your head about, Roy?
We should put that on the poll. Is there a time and a place for a good punt?
There is. There really is. Field position. It's a game of field position.
It's all about real estate acquisition. That is a game.
Thank you. I made a mistake with Salah. I feel bad about it. I did. I've never done this before, but I have the names jumbled up, and I was trying. I don't know how I mistook Robert Saleh for Frank Reich. because Frank Reich was really the coach I was thinking of. He has to win right now. He has to win this season. No, he had his guy Carson Wentz. They're a talented team.
He throws the top five into all sorts of upheaval.
I don't know what happened.
You make the
Look,
mistake. You
look
just
what
power
happens
through.
here. I wrote it down. I
I
scratched someone out, and I
What?
read the wrong name. Look, read it. You'll see what happened. You'll see. Tell the audience.
It's your list,
Tell
though.
the audience. I know. But sometimes I write down names, then I think of a guy later, and I scratched out the wrong name, and it's Frank Reich. He had Carson Wentz. That was his guy a year ago. He did nothing. Now he has Matt Ryan, Matty Ice. They're a very talented team in a pretty bad division. In fact, a lousy division, because the Jaguars are no good, the Texans are no good, and Frank Reich is supposed to be this great head coach. He's number 3 on the list. Robert Saleh, congratulations. You have another year, okay?
Let me just go over real quick just how sloppy all of this was, because it's
straight
somehow
up,
sloppier on what he's written down. We will get to top 5 quarterbacks who need to do it right now in a second.
I think since 2018, the Colts have had a different starting quarterback for Week 1 every year.
Well, how about you make one good? How about that? He got his guy, Carson Wentz. He wanted Carson Wentz because he coached Carson Wentz when he was in Philadelphia and had the big year. He got him last year, and Wentz was a disaster.
Everyone is raving about Matt Ryan.
Okay, but everyone was raving about Carson Wentz last year. I mean, and it's a lousy division, Mike.
Will you guys
the Colts
please,
have to make the playoffs.
Will
They
you
have
guys please, somebody in the other room, is anyone fluent in Stugotz back there? Because this is what I've got of this list that he's written down that he's handed me,
Good
okay?
list, yeah.
It's number 5 is McCarthy, but then number 5, I see Kingsbury is there, and he's been scribbled out.
Yeah, you see what happens. That's what I'm telling you.
Now-
Kingsbury, debatable.
Like a rough draft.
Number 4 is Stefanski, but Kyle something. It's S-H-A.
You were going to put Kyle Shanahan on
but
there?
it's not an S, it's a T. It's
I
Kyle.
pulled up on it,
No,
yeah.
he didn't even finish the last name. It's
Did you
3
think it was
letters.
Kyle Stefanski?
I realized that Shanahan's safe. Like, he's fine. He's been in a Super Bowl. He's been in an NFC Championship game. He's okay.
But
I mean,
number
he lost a
3,
lot of tough.
number 3, he does have a lot of tough. Number 3 is Robert, and then it's S-E-L, and then off to the side is Melt R-U-E.
Yeah.
It's Melt R-U-E.
Mel
think
Tucker at Michigan State?
I think it's Melt Rule. I think.
Matt
I'm not
Rule.
sure. I'm
Yeah,
not
you
sure.
never
I
know.
don't know.
Yeah.
Number 3
We
is
have a
now
dyslexic
Staley.
friend.
Number 3 is Staley. Frank Reich is number 2 and is scribbled down, and number 1 is also Staley.
Mm-hmm. Yep, my list.
It checks out.
Checks out.
What a tight individual.
Top 5 quarterbacks who need to do it right now, tomorrow.